Namaste. Welcome to Dr. Ankita Dutta from Assam. And viewers, welcome to the program by Veranda Club titled Filter Coffee with Rajesh Govindarajulu. And we are using the app Vayam, which is part of our Atmanirbhar. Let us grow with India, grow in India, and grow for India. Dr. Ankita Dutta is a very well-known teacher, writer, author, research scholar, and she is a great devotee of Ma Kamakya. We are really fortunate to have here today. The topic that she's broaching is Ramayan traditions of POORVOTTAR BHARAT. That is the Northeast. This is the sixth state. And this state is the Arunachal Pradesh. We were all made to believe that the northeastern part had nothing to do with India and that those people were disturbed by the Hindus of India. However, the work of Ankita Dutta is helping us to unravel this mystery. Or rather, we are getting to the truth. Over the last few months, she has been trying to make us learn more about the Ramayan traditions of the Northeast. And today, she is going to be sharing information connected with the Ramayan traditions in the northernmost northeastern state, Arunachal Pradesh. We tend to think that Arunachal is all Buddhist or animic because of the existence of Tawang and the disputes created by a few of our neighbors like China. But however, when we look at the traditions connected with Lord Ram and Ma Siya or Sita, we get to understand that the Arunachal has been an integral part of Bharatvarsha. Over to you, Dr. Ankita, and a million thanks to you for all the research that you're sharing with us. I think you have a long way to go, considering your age, and I'm sure that several awards, recognitions are waiting for you. May Kamakya bless you with all that in rapid succession. The rapid succession that was connected with the arrows shot by Lord Sri Ram in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Over to you. All of us are eager to listen to you. Please go ahead.
Namaste, namaste, Rajesh ji, and thank you so much for those kind words. I think a mere word of thanks is not enough for whatever you just said. It is always a pleasure to be speaking for the Veranda Club anytime. My gratitude to you and the entire team for inviting me again for the next episode in this series on the Ramayan in Northeast India. So we have already covered 5 states till now. And today is the sixth one. And today I shall be speaking on the Ramayan Parampara in Arunachal Pradesh. And after that, we will be left with two more states, Sikkim and Nagaland. I will first give a brief history of the state of Arunachal, its Hindu roots, and the different Vanavasi communities residing here. Then I will come to the Ramayan tradition that is prevalent here. And before ending my talk, I would like to speak on the problems that this region is facing today, chiefly because of several faulty policies that were undertaken by the previous governments at the center, and why we need to understand and discuss these issues in order to arrive at a holistic perspective of what exactly went wrong in the Northeast in the post independence era. Who were the people behind perpetrating such evil designs? What were their motives, etc., etc. I hope this would also be enlightening for the audience who will be listening to this talk later in YouTube, and because I think many of whom are still not aware of the history and culture of this part of the country. You have already given a brief introduction about Arunachal, Rajesh ji. It is also known as the land of dawn-lit mountains, a pristinely beautiful state, Arunachal. It is tucked at the extreme end of India's northeast. It is a state whose itihas dates back to the period of the Vedas, the Ramayan and the Mahabharata. The characters of Parshuram, Raja Bhishmak, and Rukmini are also believed to be from this region. The Brahmaputra River, which is also known as the Lohit when it flows through Arunachal, that feeds into the Parshuram Kund, located near a place called Teju, was known as the Lohitya. So the Brahmaputra was known as the Lohitya in the Puranic times. It is believed that Parshuram washed off his sin of matricide by taking bath at this particular place where Parshuram Kund is located near Tezu in Arunachal Pradesh. And various places in Arunachal find mention in our Hindu epics. For example, the Kalika Puran describes the upper Lohit Valley as Prabhu Kutir and the Suvansiri Valley as Prabhu Parvat. The present day ruins of Bhishmak Nagar, which finds mention in the Kalika Puran, located near the town of Sadia in Upper Assam, bordering Arunachal Pradesh, are said to represent the palace of Raja Bhishmak, mentioned in the Bhagavad Puran. Two different copper plates with Sanskrit inscriptions have also been discovered from the temple near Bhishmak Nagar, located near a place called Roing in the lower Dibang Valley district of Arunachal. Various Vanavasi communities of Arunachal Pradesh, particularly the Mishimis, they trace their ancestry to Raja Bhishmak and through him to his daughter Rukmini and Sri Krishna. Worship of the Shiva Lingam in the hills bordering the Brahmaputra Valley in Arunachal, and also certain remote areas of Tawang in Arunachal, is still prevalent till this day. In fact, I would like to mention here about a large Shivalingam which was unearthed in Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh during the archaeological excavations that were conducted during 1965 to 67 by the archaeological section of the Directorate of Research in the state. A very tall Shivalinga was excavated from Zero. The name of the place is Zero in the lower Subansiri district of Arunachal. And interestingly, the discovery of this Shivalinga happened in the holy month of Shravan. Uh, it is, I mean, we are going through the month of Shravan now, and the discovery of the same Shivalinga happened in the holy month of Shravan in the year 2004 in the deep forests of Zero in Arunachal. And it is also believed that the appearance of this lingam at this particular place finds mention in chapter 17 of the Rudra Khanda of the Shiva Purana. It is a natural rock mass Shivalinga measuring around 25 feet in height and 22 feet in circumference. A continuous stream of water flows beneath the linga throughout the year, which is surrounded by other devis and devatas associated with Shiva. Like, for example, the trunk of Bhagwan Ganesh is to be seen on the front side, while Ma Parvati and Kartikeya are on the back in the form of smaller lingas. Now, coming to the 19th century, during the 19th century, British administrators and scholars began recording the oral histories of various Vanavasi communities residing here, and they also explored places such as Bhishmak Nagar, Tamareshwari Temple, Bhalukpong, Rukmini Nagar, Ita Fort, among others in Arunachal. A series of excavations followed in Bhishmak Nagar, Malini Than, and also places like Vijayanagar, Rukmini Nagar, and Naksha Parvat over the next few decades. The inscriptions that have been found at the Tamareshwari temple and the Bhishmak Nagar fort were written in Sanskrit, Assamese, and Bengali scripts. Uh, I think we cannot leave behind Malini Than in this context when we are talking about the Hindu history of Arunachal, because this is a very, very important Hindu religious place of worship come archaeological site, Malini Than in Arunachal. And it is a complex of what I would say temple ruins located in the foothills of the West Siang district of Arunachal Pradesh, bordering Dhemaji district in Upper Assam. Excavations conducted over the years at this place have led to the discovery of four separate temple bases and a large number of sculptures and murtis of Hindu devis and devatas. Well carved and beautifully decorated stone structures in this place speak volumes about the rich and glorious history of this temple complex. In fact, the story of Malini Than is associated with Sri Krishna, who is said to have rested at this place along with Rukmini on their way back from Bhishmak Nagar. And it was at this place, Malini Than, where Krishna and Rukmini were welcomed by Shiva and Mata Parvati with garlands and sweet smelling flowers. And this was when Sri Krishna addressed Mata Parvati as Malini and said that from now onwards she would be worshipped at this place with this new name. And since then, the place has become famous as Malini Than, or the abode of Malini. Than means place, abode. So the abode of Malini. Uh, the temple complex, the period, it roughly dates back to the 9th and 13th centuries AD as per available literature on this subject. And the influence of several former rulers and dynasties of Assam in the architecture of this temple is also clearly visible. Archaeological excavations that have been carried out by the Directorate of Research, State Government of Arunachal Pradesh from time to time, has extensively studied and recorded the numerous findings that have been unearthed from the temple complex. Many beautiful sculptures and stone structures are to be seen lying in the open, or they are preserved in the site museum, including different parts of the temple, murtis of various devis and devatas, rishis, gandharvas, apsaras, and other human and animal figurines. The main deity who is worshipped in this temple is Durga or Malini, who is worshipped as Mata Parvati, as I have mentioned just now. And it is said that the present day image of the Devi was reconstructed from broken pieces of stone found during the excavation. Although we need further research on whether Muslim invasions affected the structure of this temple. Research is going on in this aspect, but without any proper or credible findings till now, we cannot comment on this subject. But yes, there are several ruins of destruction that can be found in this temple, which points to possible incidents of attempts at destruction. And besides Durga, murtis of Nandi, Indra, Surya, Brahma, then Lakshmi, Saraswati, Ganesh, Varaha, Radha, Krishna, and Shivalinga, and numerous other stone figures can be seen at the Malini Than temple complex. There is a place known as Akashi Ganga located near Malini Than, not very far from there, and it is considered as one of the 51 sacred Shakti Pithas associated with the story of Mata Sati, whose head is believed to have fallen here at Akashi Ganga. And both Malini Than and Akashi Ganga draw a huge crowd of pilgrims from different parts of the country during the annual Durga Puja and Kali Puja festivals. Uh, so, this is the brief history that I wanted to share. And coming to the what association did Arunachal have with the Ahom dynasty? I'll briefly speak on that before coming to the Ramayan Parampara. Between 500 BC to 600 AD, the northwestern parts of today's Arunachal were ruled by the Monpa kingdom of Monul. I'll come to the Monpas while discussing about the Ramayan later. And the rest of the state shared control between the local chiefdoms uh, and the Chutia kings of Assam. And subsequently, the northern region of the state came to be controlled by Bhutan and Tibet, while the other parts were governed by the Ahom dynasty of Assam. The Shimla Accord was negotiated by the representatives of Tibet, China, and Britain in the years 1913 and 1914. This treaty drew a boundary of 550 miles approximately, which is now famously known as the McMahon line between India and Tibet. However, this border was not acknowledged by China even after 2 decades of the Shimla Conference, and this is where the root of all conflicts and problems lies with respect to China's territorial claims over several areas of Arunachal Pradesh. After independence, Arunachal was founded as the NEFA, or Northeast Frontier Agency region, in the year 1954. Although the relations between China and India were cordial until around 1960, but a resurgence of border disagreements, we all know, it led to the tragic Sino-Indian War in 1962. And during the war, China captured most of Arunachal Pradesh, but no sooner had they declared victory, they withdrew to the original McMahon line and finally returned the Indian prisoners of war in 1963. And the Union Territory of Arunachal Pradesh was established when the region was renamed in the year 1972. But it was not until 1987 that the region gained its statehood, making it the 24th state of the Union of India. Now I will come to the explanation of the different versions of the Ramayan or Ram Katha Parampara that is prevalent among different Vanavasi communities of Arunachal. Adis, Nishimis, Noktes, Sherdukpens. There are many communities and all have their own versions of the Ramayan. Unfortunately, the saddest part of the story is that they are now a declining tradition for various reasons, which I will discuss briefly at the end of this talk. But I will discuss about the Ramayan traditions now in the second part. And in fact, one of the earliest Ramayans in Northeast India is considered to be that of the Tai Fakes of Assam, the Khamyangs and the Khamtis of Arunachal Pradesh. And these are the communities, the Tai Fakes, the Khamyangs, and the Khamtis, who share many things related to their religious beliefs and practices, festivals, etc., in common. There is another community called the Aka. in Arunachal. The Akas residing in Arunachal's Kaming district, they trace their ancestry from Jambuwan, who was a lieutenant in the army of Sri Ram. And it is believed that these communities, when they entered the northeast, the knowledge of the Ramayan was very much ingrained in them. And the text was already a part of their cultural traditions and religious belief systems. Now, talking about the Khamtis, a small section of the Khamtis reside in Lakhimpur district of Upper Assam, but a majority of them are to be found in the neighboring Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh. They are mainly Buddhists by religion, and many of their practices and religious rituals share similarities with the tradition of Buddhism as practiced in Myanmar. The Khamti Ramayan is also known by the name of Ramamang, where Sita is referred to as Nangphe. Nangphe in the Khamti language means a Devi, or which can be translated in English as goddess. So, in the Khamti Ramayan, which is known as Ramamang, Sita is referred to as Nangphe or Nangphe Sita. So, it's like Devi Sita. Nangphe is Devi and Sita. And many of these terminologies have been deeply influenced and inspired by those versions of the Ramayan which were already in circulation in Southeast Asia. It needs to be mentioned here that there is also an Ahom version of the Ramayan, which is preserved at the Department of Historical and Antiquarian Studies, DHAS, in Guwahati. So, those of you who are interested in learning more about these traditions, whenever you take a trip to Northeast and Guwahati, because anywhere anyone would like to go in the Northeast, you have to go from Guwahati. So you can definitely visit Dhas and get hold of these materials if if you are interested. So, and yes, as I have mentioned earlier, the Khamti Ramayan is closely associated with Buddhism and Buddhist religious beliefs and practices. The influence of the Jataka tales on the Khamti Ramayan is also very much evident. Many of its elements share a deep and intrinsic connection with different versions of the Ramayan story prevalent in different parts of Southeast Asia. Now, in the Thai Khamti language, the Khamti Ramayan is also known as the Chao Alang Lamang, which means the story of Ram's incarnation. Chao Alang Lamang, or it is also known as Lik Chao Lamang, which means the Ramayan book or the book of the Ramayan, Lik Chao Lamang. Uh, they have a written version of this text as well, the manuscript of which is still preserved at the Dikrong Barkhamti Buddhist Vihara of Narayanpur in Lokhimpur district of Upper Assam. Now, coming to the character of Sri Ram in the Khamti Ramayan. Ram here is a bodhisattva who manifests himself in this form as a bodhisattva to punish and subdue the adharmis, that is, those who are sinful, uh, tyrannical, and arrogant people, all of which are personified through the character of Ravan. And apart from reflecting several peculiarities of the Khamti local environment, food habits, language, dressing style, customs, ethos, and religious beliefs and practices, including the sounds of the names of different characters and places in the text, the Khamti Ramayan story represents a blend of interesting twists, such as I would like to give a few examples here. Such as in the Khamti Ramayan, Ram and Sita are described to have met by chance before their marriage and they fall in love with each other. Now, Ram then keeps sending letters to Sita with the help of his arrows shot from his bow. Sita replies to each and every letter that she receives from Ram. On one occasion, it so happens that Ram's letter falls into the hands of Raja Janak, Sita's father, who then discovers the love affair between the two. and soon he arranges the marriage ceremony of the couple. Uh, then again, in the Khamti Ramayan, Sita has been described as the avatar or incarnation of Kingi Devi, uh, who is believed to be the consort of the Bodhisattva. Kingi Devi undergoes strict penance for several years continuously to have Ram as her husband. When Ravan tries to abduct her forcefully, she willingly jumps onto a burning pyre, after which she is reborn. And after she is reborn, she is thrown into the sea in an iron casket. And the same casket then drifts along to Mithila, where she is found and adopted by Janak. These are all described in the Khamti Ramayan, these stories. And there is another episode in the Khamti Ramayan where, upon seeing the Rakshasas who are killed in the battlefield going directly to Swarglok. I mean, the Rakshasas who are killed in the battlefield, they are directly going to Swarglok, and Vibhishan is a witness to this. Then Vibhishan laments that he became a devotee of Sri Ram in vain, since the enemies, the adversaries of Ram, have all gone to Swarglok while he himself remains there. Sri Ram then reasons with Vibhishan and he pacifies him. So, and interestingly, many of these episodes and the sequences of their occurrence are similar with those of the Krittivasi Ramayan in Bengali. After the Khamtis, I will now come to the. Rajesh, you have to say something here. I can then continue. You
I'm
can.
just keenly listening to you. I don't want to disturb you.
No, no, no. It's okay. You can. You can comment. You can share your thoughts if you have. Then I'll continue.
No, I'm really amazed at the depth of your study and research. I'm not saying this to flatter you.
No, no.
We were told at least Assam and modern Bangladesh and parts of Tripura were all right.
Yeah.
But this Nefa region has nothing to do with Indian culture and tradition.
Yes. Yes.
Now we are talking about a letter from Rama to Sita. Sita to Rama, Rama to Sita communication, and how Janak intercepts the letter. That is one part. And
Yeah.
the other part, you're talking about Bhishmak, the father-in-law of Lord Krishna,
Ha. Yes.
and Rukmini and Krishna and their romance.
Yes.
And you're talking of Rama being treated as a bodhisattva.
Yes. In the Khamti Ramayana. Yes.
Yes, yes. So all these aspects only go on to talk about the inclusive nature of the Indian religious diversity.
True. Yes.
The Indian religious diversity is extremely inclusive. It takes into consideration climate, habits, availability of material and technology, lifestyle of the people, language, and everything else, and still keeps us together.
Yeah.
But we are now looking at imported civilizations and cultural aspects which are imported, which have a problem with inclusiveness. We are asked to be displaying tolerance to people and ideologies which are intolerant by nature. That is the problem. We are tolerant, we are very inclusive, and our culture is extremely diverse and yet united. But we are asked to be tolerant towards people and cultures and activities which are intolerant. And they're calling that secularism, which is nothing but pseudo-secularism. And when you're trying to explain the facts connected with Arunachal Pradesh, I am simply stunned and taken aback, and so will the readers be, because I find this to be very seminal. And you have spoken about the Shivlingams which are present there, the height and the circumference of the Shivlingam. And then you've spoken about the other deities who are found in the vicinity, then about the Parshuram Kund. This is something which I happened to come across when I wrote a small book on Renuka, the
Okay.
mother of Parshuram.
Mm-hmm.
See, Renuka is held as a very important deity by a lot of people in the Coimbatore region and also in the Telugu speaking parts of southern India. So some years ago, they celebrated a Renuka Devi Utsav, and I was summarily called upon to produce a book. I went to Padavedu where there is a Renuka temple and then did some homework. I was fortunate to come up with a tiny book which was only 56 pages, but I wrote it in all but 4 days.
Oh.
And the book had to be translated into Tamil, and unfortunately, I was not good at that. Somebody else did it. The book was made, and 20,000 copies were published. According to the book, when we look at the Brahmaputra, which is a male river, and the Ganga, which is a female river, and Parshuram's, the redemption of Parshurama for Matruhatya. He is, Renuka is his mother, and he has done it on the orders of his father. So I was like, stunned and taken aback, and that's why I was just thinking deeply when we were talking about this Kund and the redemption of Parshuram. So we are looking at 3 or 4 incarnations of Lord Vishnu in the Northeast.
Yes.
Ram,
Yes.
Parshuram, Ram and Krishna. And we are also looking at the head part of the Shakti Sthal or Shakti peaks.
Yes, yes.
51. Kheer Bhavani is in Kashmir, I think. Everyone thinks kheer is some kind of a kheer that we drink, but it also means the neck portion, I think. So here you have the head, which is a very important part of the Devi, and
in
therefore,
fact, I would request all of you to visit this place, Malini Than, whenever you happen to come there. And once
I think we are all now. We have to spend a month in the Northeast. It looks like.
Yeah.
Because with every state you're adding to our list. I was just thinking Malini is so much used as a South Indian name.
Yes.
Malini is like, it was a very popular name in the Tamil movies, I believe. I was not born in the 50s and 60s though, but I've heard that it's a popular name, Miss Malini, and words like that. And Stan and Tan, all of it means place. So a very, very similar etymological origin for the term.
Yes,
and
which proves that the culture was always same. The same Sanatan Vedic culture that has tied all of us together throughout the country.
And it's so invisible, but yet it's brought us together. And you're
Yes.
talking about some similarities with Myanmar also, and some parts of, some practices and habits of Myanmar which have come inside. And of course, you've spoken about Bhutan, Sikkim, Tibet, and we can understand from history that a lot of Buddhism and a lot of Indian practices only went into Myanmar and went into Tibet and went into China. And when we look into this, it was because of the trade routes and the intellectual exchanges between China and India and the other parts of the Eastern world. And texts were carried, copied, and we have enough people like Fahim, Yuan Chuang, or Hian Sang, or however you wish to call them, however people call them. These people have carried a lot of texts and gone through the Silk Route and gone back into China. And this probably, you cannot say that they only took Buddhism and went, no, they did not touch any Hindu text. No, they didn't take anything else. Well, if they could take grammar, well, if they could take details connected with yoga, with martial arts, they definitely have taken Sanskrit and definitely have taken a lot of Hinduism also, and Buddhism and Jainism have, a great impact on Hinduism and vice versa. In fact, they are kind of Hinduism has given birth to these kind of ideas and faith. And many years ago, I had the opportunity to read a book. I'm not able to get its name.
Mm-hmm.
There's a character called William Samdut
Mm.
who comes in that. And they talk about this Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana,
Mm-hmm.
and so many other things. The tantric form of Tibetan Buddhism. There's a lot of tantric activity from Orissa onwards.
Mm.
If you see
Yes,
when you
Eastern
go
India. Yeah.
Eastern India, and it goes into Tibet.
Yes.
So I'm able to now, and also when we talk about the Manasarovar,
Yeah.
and when we talk about the birth of Skanda or Kartikeya, he's born in the northern part of the country, and six women look after him, the Kritika constellation. Then he becomes one child, and then he migrates to the southern part of the country to get rid of some of the demons. And Agastya has already come to the south. So, all of this is so symbiotic, but yet we are made to, believe, or, we are forced to agree that all this is different. Some
True.
years ago, I got the opportunity to read an article, if I'm not mistaken, in the Hindu Sunday magazine. I was forced to read the article because names have got Sanskritized, was put in big bold letters. And I was wondering how did it happen? Then I went through the whole article. There was one small sentence somewhere. I wanted to write a letter to the editorial team. What about the conversions that have taken place in the tribal communities?
True.
And how
Yes.
did those names become Latin, or,
Hmm.
become English, or more Christian, which is
Hmm.
not Indian at all, which is not native at all. Even if they say that Sanskrit came from Central India, there is no proof. But we have solid proof when we talk about all these Western cultures
Yeah.
and monotheistic religions. And I was wondering, how is it that they're just, stamping
Hmm.
something on our culture while putting the entire Indian civilization under a stampede of invasions? So if this cultural genocide is taking place, it is because of the intellectual genocide. So
Yes.
genocides are of a different kind. The Hindu genocide, largely that we are talking about, what Aarti Agarwal is talking, the author of Kaunomics,
Hmm.
when we look at that, the cultural genocide, the Indian genocide, and there is no clash. Some people call it the clash of civilizations. We are not clashing with anybody.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's, somebody trying to pierce and destroy Indian culture. It is
Weaken it,
very evident.
subvert it from inside. True.
And when we
Yes.
talk about that, they call us right wing, hardliners,
Hmm.
orthodox,
Hmm.
fanatic people.
Yes.
It is not. These are people who are, having firm ideologies, inflexible economic ideologies like the communist ideology or the socialist ideology or the Western form of capitalism, which is not very compassionate. India has no such economic ideology because we are only talking about sabka saath, sabka vikas, united progress. And when I was just listening to all this, more than the other episodes, this episode was more touching because I was able to see Parashuram Kund, Ma Renuka, then Rukmini, the most tolerant form of Lakshmi, because Rukmini has accepted 16,107 other consorts of Krishna,
Yes. Yes.
and yet she holds the first place, which tells us that if we tolerate as many people in our lives, and if we do so properly with due regard for whomever that we are doing so, we will never lose our place.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what Rukmini has done. And today we are talking about wealth given by Rukmini to us, so many forms of wealth. What does all this wealth mean? Wealth is all right. But I was just thinking the greatest wealth is our Sanskriti, Bharatiya Sanskriti. I'm a proud citizen of India. I'm a happy citizen and content citizen of India. The biggest form of wealth for me is having born in Bharatavarsha and having been accustomed and acclimatized to this Sanskriti. I think that is the greatest position or post that I can have.
Yes,
That
yes.
I think is better than being the president of any country in the world. Being an ordinary Bharatiya, I think is better than being the Secretary General of the United Nations or President of Russia or United States. I'm not belittling them, but I feel, speaking from my heart as an ordinary citizen, after going through experiences in life due to my exposure, and after having discussed with numerous authors like you in the last 1 year or so, I feel the greatest wealth in this world is nothing but the Sanskriti that Bharat has to offer.
Yes.
And hail to thee, all of you who are offering it to us just like that. I hope people understand and, you know, whop it up. Please continue.
Yeah, such enlightening words. Always a pleasure to listen to you and also learn. Thank you so much, Rajesh ji, for those words. And yes, after the Khamtis, nice to know that you are very much pleased to hear about this particular state and its Ramayan tradition. Okay, so now after the Khamtis, I will now come to the tradition of the Ramayan that is prevalent among the Mishimis inhabiting the Dibang and Kamlang Nagar valleys, Siang and Lohit districts of Arunachal Pradesh. In fact, the Adis and the Mishimis both share a deep affinity with the story of Sri Ram. The Mishimi version of the Ramayan begins with a king whose daughter is abducted by an eight-headed Rakshasa. He is not 10-headed but eight-headed in the Mishimi version of the story. And although the king was able to rescue her, but she was again kidnapped by another Rakshas who came from across the seas. The king then entered into an alliance with the king of the Vanars, Vanar Sena, and with the help of the Vanar Raja, he finally is able to kill the Rakshas and rescue his daughter. This story of the Mishimi Ramayan not only incorporates all the important episodes as mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayan, but also the major characters such as Ram, Hanumanji, Lakshman, Sita, Ravan, Vibhishan, etc. They are all there. And
Oh,
this is a state, Arunachal, which is well known for its rich and vibrant culture, which is displayed through various artistic forms. And uh, I will be briefly talking about the Monpa community now, among whom the story of the Ramayan is equally popular. There is a beautiful dance form which is known as Aji Lamu. It is also known as Aji Lamu or Aji Lamu. So both of them are correct. Aji Lamu or Aji Lamu. This is a dance form that is prevalent among the Monpas of Tawang and the Sherduk Pens of West Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh. Aji Lamu depicts the story of the Ramayan uh, during the 3 day annual Loshar festival in Tawang. Now, Loshar is the new year of the Monpas. That also marks the beginning of the spring season and the first day of the lunar calendar among the Monpas. Aji Lamo is marked by rampant dance moves of the feet and the hands. And it is one of the most dramatic dance performances of both the Monpas and the Sherduk Pens. It is a beautiful embodiment of what I would say the story of the Ramayan. And the dancers involved in it take the form of five different characters who are an integral part of the entire storyline. And these characters are Gweli, the chief, Niapa and Niaro. Niaro is the villain and Niapa is the hero. And Lamu and Lum are both female characters. Now, Lamu comes to the earth and becomes the queen of Gweli, who is the king. She falls in love with the hero, Nyapa, who is a very good archer. He is skilled in archery, and both of them get married. But soon after, Nyapa is kidnapped by the demon king Niaro, who is the villain of the story, and Niaro belongs to a distant region which is situated across the seas. So this is the storyline of Aji Lamu. It pays extensive attention to finer details and involves heavy makeup and costumes, along with different headgears for the different characters who narrate the stories. The costumes are generally inspired by different motifs of wildlife that are found in this region and on which the Monpas are dependent for their livelihood, such as the Gayal, sheep, yaks, and other animals and birds that are found in this region. And as in most other dance drama forms that are based on the Ramayan, which I have also discussed in some of my earlier episodes like Bhari Gan, etc. Aji Lamo too portrays the victory of good over evil or dharm over adharm. And when performed during the annual Loshar festival in Tawang, it is believed to spread joy and prosperity in the community and drive away all negative spirits. But in today's date, I'll come to some uncomfortable truths now, which we need to discuss in order to understand how we can preserve these declining art forms. In today's date, many of these art forms, with their roots in Sanatan Vedic Dharma, they are either in a decadent state or on the verge of near complete extinction. The most unfortunate part is that many of them have been lost forever from amongst us without even being written down or documented. In many states, such as Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Mizoram, which have been completely Christianized, Ram Katha traditions have lost their prominence and relevance completely after the spread and consolidation of Christianity. And these were further put into oblivion by the continuous neglect and deprivation of the Northeast by, of course, we know whom, by the successive Congress governments at the center, which opened the floodgates for so many of the major problems that the Northeast is today grappling with, whether it be religious conversions, drugs and arms trafficking from across the border with China and Myanmar, etc. Various reasons have been responsible for causing a decline of the dharmic belief systems among the different Vanavasi communities in the Northeast, and this has seriously impacted people's understanding of their own itihas, their origins, and most importantly, the Sanskriti or the cultural connect, which I would say that they share with their fellow brothers and sisters in the rest of the country uh, through the stories of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Puranas, etc. I would like to mention here about an article. For those who might not know, they can search for it and read it because this is a very, very important article that has been written by Dr. N.S. Rajaram. The title of the article is Neglecting National Interest from Nehru to Sonia Gandhi. And Dr. Rajaram, in this article, he writes about the Army Chief General, who later became Field Marshal, Cariappa, who advised Nehru that India's Northeast should be developed to bring its population into the national fold. But a British missionary called Verrier Elwin intervened
Yes.
and advised Nehru that this region, the Northeast, had many different tribal communities, and therefore it is not feasible to interfere in their ways of living and belief systems. Uh, so he was the one who directed Nehru that we need to preserve the so-called unique tribal culture of these people, and so any form of interference is not acceptable in this part of the country. But this eventually left the field open for foreign Christian missionaries who went on to dominate the area in due course of time. Now, who was this warrior Elvin, by the way, and what was his role in the Christianization of the entire Northeast? There is a very good article by Sandeep Balakrishna ji in the Dharma Dispatch where he mentions Elvin uh, was a British missionary, and he has given several details of how he exploited tribal girls, underage tribal girls, in the guise of being a serious anthropologist for his research studies.
And he
And
calls himself a participant.
yes, and when Elvin was around 40 years of age, he married a 13-year-old tribal girl whose name was Kosi. And Kosi happened to be his student of research, and he treated her like a guinea pig. The subject of his anthropological studies, including publishing intimate sexual details in what he termed as participatory observation research. And after nearly 9 years of marriage, Elvin left her alone. Elvin left Kosi alone in deep poverty with a child, and he married another tribal girl whose name was Leela. Nehru was the one to have appointed Warrior Elvin as the anthropological advisor to the government of NEFA, that is today's Arunachal Pradesh. Since we are discussing about Arunachal Pradesh, so this is something, a part of our history which we cannot ignore anymore. And a near total segregation of almost the entire Northeast took place for over 50 years, more than 50 years. Elvin's exclusivist preservation policy of preserving what he said the so-called unique tribal culture of Northeast not only led to a criminal segregation of the entire Northeast for over 50 years after India's independence, but it left a devastating trail of foreign funded missionary conversions, inter and intra community hostilities, and most importantly, the decline of traditional belief systems of the people, giving rise to a host of unending problems that culminated in several separatist movements with the gradual passage of time. And this is a phenomenon. Christianization of this region is a phenomenon that became popular during the post independence era, because when we look at the data, Christians formed a mere 0.79% of the state's population in 1971, that increased to 4.3% in 1981, then 10.3% in 1991, 18.70 something percent in 2001, then it pushed up to 30.26% as per the census data of 2011. Christian missionaries operating from their bases in Assam and Nagaland, close to the interstate border with Arunachal, have successfully managed to lure innocent Vanavasis with offers of free education, free healthcare, etc., and convert them. But the positive aspect of what is visible on the ground is that Arunachal is the only state in the Northeast today, besides Assam and Manipur, of course, to some extent, where traditional belief systems of the Vanavasis, such as Amik Matai, Nani Intaya, Doni Polo. Doni Polo is followed by several Vanavasi communities of Arunachal Pradesh, where Doni is moon and Polo is sun. So Doni Polo faith is all about the worship of the sun and the moon. Rangfra. Rangfra is their traditional deity worshipped by the Tangsa and the Tutsa community of Arunachal Pradesh. And Rangfra is very similar. He resembles Bhagwan Shiva. So these faith systems are still in existence thanks to the ground level efforts of organizations such as the Akhil Bharatiya Vanavasi Kalyan Ashram and ISKCON. And currently, research is also being undertaken on the different aspects of the traditional belief systems of the Vanavasis, medicines, and their cultural practices and their association with Sanatan Dharma, along with the publication of credible literature based upon these findings. These are all ongoing works right now, and I hope this would go a long way in resurrecting back and in resurrecting back what we lost and preserving and promoting a culture that is nothing different from Sanatan Dharma or Hindu Dharma. That's all.
I've read about Warrior Elvin and his claim being an anthropologist.
Yes.
And him being able to convince people like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and the evils perpetuated by him on children in the Northeast. I'm glad that Sandeep Balakrishna and yourself are bringing it to light once again. And all of us are aware about the activities of the missionaries and the separatists who have primarily been using religion as the tool for separatism.
Yes.
And if there is a Hindu majority region, it has to be secular. If it is a non-Hindu region, it need not be secular, because they will be permitted to live the way that they want, because that is their majority will. And in places where this religious activity is not giving enough result, linguistic and racial fundamentalism are fed into the minds of the people so that they can start hating the idea of India. And there are enough spin doctors who've been doing this. And we are really lucky and fortunate to have so many good people and Indic authors, Sanatanis like yourself, who are, burning midnight oil to ensure that the truth is brought out. And it is being brought out in an unabashed manner. People are scared to make a comment. They think if you make this comment, you will be called a communal person. It is not so. How can
They
speaking the
also
truth?
think if we, when we try to connect the problems that we see in the Northeast today, including insurgency, to the spread of Christianity, they are also scared of that. So, no, we will be labeled as something else if we talk about this. But
Why
conflict
can't? Why,
is so inherent. Like, whenever, like, I'm saying this from my experience because there are so many different divisions within Christianity, and each division considers each of them to be superior, and so conflict is so natural, and then these people get psychologically separated from their fellow brethren in the rest of the country.
very true. And while religion has been used to separate people in the Northeast from the rest of the country and elsewhere, like the Northwest and some parts of the North, uh, we are told that we should keep our mouth shut and not talk about it. How can it be fair? And how is it fair? And especially when you take the story of Ram, you find Ram in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, you find Ram in Sri Lanka, you find Ram in Kashmir, you find Ram in Gujarat, you find Ram in Nagaland and Tripura. There is not a single state in India where Lord Ram is not there.
Yes.
And there's not a single state in India where there is Krishna not present. That Krishna is present everywhere. And when you look at Devi, the worship of Devi, you spoke about the Malini Tan, which is the Shakti Peeth connected with the head of Devi. And I think we need to address this a lot more. and all of us have a larger role and responsibility during the times to come.
I will
That is what I can.
definitely bring out an article based on my findings on the Malini Than for the Veranda Club in the next edition.
Surely, and not only that, need some help with regard to the dance form that you spoke about in
Ajilamo.
Arunachal,
Haan,
Ajilamo,
haan,
which you spoke about the heavy makeup, the masks.
haan, yes.
Is it possible to give us a write up on that? We can share it with the
Sure, sure.
common
I have
public,
photos also. I have several photos of Malini Than and as well as this. I'll just share with you.
both can be two different things, need
Yes,
not be
yes.
cluttered inside one,
It
so
can be
that
two
this
different write-ups.
this dance form can be spoken about.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there are organizations like Speak McKay, organizations like Intact, who are they say they're trying to work towards preservation of our tradition. I think we also need an Bharatiya organization which will work towards preserving the skill forms present in India, the art, dance, craft forms present in India, and the uh, culinary forms present throughout the country. We'll be really glad to post an article with an introduction connected with some form of food from the Northeast.
Sure. I already wrote, I think, one on rice beer.
Yeah,
Uh,
but this can
hmm.
be, some recipe where
Ha
you give
ha.
an introduction
Yes,
and then
yes.
write the recipe down
Ha
with
ha.
the photograph.
Okay. Sure. I'll keep this in mind for the next edition. So there is
Sure, sure.
Malini
Thank you. I
Than,
think
Malini Than,
that
Aji Lamo, and one or two recipes. Yeah, there are several. In
I
fact,
think we should get at least 1,000 people to come on a joint tour of the Northeast for
yeah,
about
very true.
15-20 days
Mhm.
and let them take pictures, exchange views, and go back. They'll be very happy. Those people have always been wanting to be integrated with us, but due to political short-sightedness and
Yes.
selfish approach to religion and culture in the past, great damage has taken place, and I hope this does not continue. And on behalf of the viewers of today and the future, and on behalf of the Veranda Club and everybody else, I thank you, Ankita, for
Thank you.
bringing to light the truth. And
Thank
that
you
too,
so
when
much.
you're talking about light in the sunrise state of India, Arunachal. So, thank you so much for being with us today. Looking forward to seeing you and meeting you further. And I think a visit from all of us to the Northeast is long overdue now. Let us try it within the next 1 year.
Anytime, anytime.
Help us to
Thank you.
make a plan so which is age friendly, and there could be seniors coming in also,
Anytime.
and
Just let me know in advance. I'll help you out with
so that we will
everything.
be able to stay there, and there may not be enough. See, we tend to think that there's nothing there to go and stay. I'm sure there must be facilities.
It's
Your
not like
guidance will
that.
be great.
It's not like that. There is no safety. Safety is also very good right now there. So there is nothing to fear as such.
Thank you so much. Vande Matram.
Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram.